And that says we control everything in the Brotherhood secret language. Also, as I travel the world, the number of times I see police forces have their badge in the center of two squares laid on top of each other. This is Sussex Police in Britain, but I've seen it all over the world, the same thing. Very appropriate. We control everything. One of the most important strands of this bloodline, going back to the Anunnaki of the ancient world and this hybrid race that was created, is France. And particularly an area of France and near across the German border called Lorraine, or Alsace-Lorraine. And the House of Lorraine has been a real home for the purest of these reptile Martian or reptile-human bloodlines. And the House of Lorraine developed this symbol, the double cross. See that there on this guy. Double cross. That's where we get the phrase being double-crossed, being manipulated. How appropriate. And so you take the double cross, and we see it in the modern world in Exxon, the Rockefeller-controlled or guided oil company, with the double cross in the symbol. Again, to the uninitiated, people would look at that and say, oh, it's just a symbol, mate. But actually, to the initiates who run this show, it actually means something. A Texaco oil company, esoteric symbols again. The circle, the pentagram, and the T-cross of Freemasonry, the Tau cross it's also called. Again, symbols are talking to the subconscious. When you look at that symbol, you can't hear words coming off it in a conscious way, but it's actually resonating an energy that talks to the subconscious. This is why advertisers who are in this knowledge stream manipulate advertising in a way that they use certain colors, certain phrases, certain symbols to talk to the subconscious and get us to then buy the product in a conscious way, thinking we've made the decision when we've been stimulated from a much deeper level. Subliminal advertising is massive. Amoco, the oil company with the lighted torch. Again, the same symbol that keeps recurring all over the place. The British royal family, the Windsors, are one of the most identifiable of these reptile-human bloodlines that have been controlling the world increasingly powerfully for so long. In the ancient world, on caves and underground areas in Cappadocia, an ancient Phoenician center, you find the splayed cross on the wall, what we call now the Maltese cross. And so, appropriately, on the crown that crowns the monarch of England, this is the crown on which, or with which, the Queen of England was crowned back in the 50s, 1953, you see, again, the Maltese cross, and that keeps coming up again and again. Also on that was the fleur-de-lis. The fleur-de-lis is a symbol of Nimrod. Here are some of the sticks the Queen holds, you know, in the ceremonies and stuff, scepters they call them. And once again, you see the Maltese crosses and the doves. The dove, Queen Semiramis, the deity of Babylon, on the various scepters and bits and pieces that they use in their royal ceremonies and regalia and heraldry and stuff in Britain, because this to an initiate means something very significant. This is the Dutch royal family. Again, you've got the splayed cross, the Maltese cross, and the Dutch royal family are the same bloodline as the British royal family, because the royal families of Europe are one bloodline, just offshoots of it. And all the surviving royal families of Europe are blood related to William of Orange, William III, who helped this scam to really motor when he became King of England, as I talked about earlier. And one of the members of the Dutch royal family is a guy called Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, and he'll come up as we go along, good mate of Prince Philip, both knowingly manipulating this agenda I'm talking about. So we go to the Nazis. Now, of course, the Allies were against the Nazis. I read that somewhere too. But it's funny, the same symbolism comes up. On this Nazi, you've got the Maltese cross. It was a big Nazi symbol. You've got the flying disc, which was a symbol of the sun in Egypt and other ancient cultures. And as we go along here, here's the classic Heil Hitler symbol. What was that? It was a symbol from a ritual of a secret society, a satanic secret society called the Order of the Golden Dawn, involving a guy called Aleister Crowley, which was working through both the Allies, the British, and the Nazis during the Second World War. And here's a guy who's he collects them, this fella. Another Nazi, look, he's got the Maltese cross, he's got the skull and bones, he's got the reverse swastika, the sun symbol of the Phoenicians, and he's got the eagle, which is symbolic of the phoenix, the sunbird of the Phoenicians and the Egyptians. And this is why you see eagles everywhere, in coats of arms and national badges, not least the United States. Here it is. The original, apparently, coat of arms of the United States actually had a phoenix until it was switched to the eagle. And if you count the number of arrows there, the number of feathers, the number of letters in that name, and all this massive symbolism, they all add up to key esoteric numbers like 13, 9, etc., etc., because initiates created this. Every so often there are certain events and certain people which pull in all strands of the various elements I've talked about so far over these hours. And the assassination, because that's what it was, of Diana, Princess of Wales, had all these elements of bloodlines, of royalty, of secret societies, and of the symbolism of the secret societies in the actual assassination itself. In The Biggest Secret, I've gone into this in tremendous detail in one chapter in particular, and there is a video documentary planned of this Diana assassination and the background to it. Maybe it will even have been done and be available by the time you see this. So I'm not going to go into the Diana thing in great detail here because it's done elsewhere, but I just want to go through a few things. From close confidence of Diana, it's very clear that she realized after a while that she had been pulled in for a specific purpose. She used to call herself the Windsor broodmare. The Spencer family is an ancient bloodline which is interbred with many of the aristocratic families of Britain, of Europe, and of America. Spencers are distant cousins, for instance, of the Rockefellers. And she realized that they'd drawn her into the Windsor web because they wanted her genes. They wanted to fuse the Windsor genes with the Spencer genes to produce another version of a genetic hybrid with a particular genetic structure. And from the very start, it's clear when you look at the story and the information that she was pulled in and identified for this from a very, very early age. She was actually brought up on the Sandringham estate and knew the Queen and Prince Charles and stuff from a very early age. The Windsors are, this is the Queen here, an ancient reptile human bloodline. And I was kind of surprised, although my research was going that way, to be told that by a confidant of Diana that her nickname for the Windsors was the lizards or the reptiles. And she used to say, in all seriousness, they're not human. And she knew far more about this background by the time she died than people in the public domain would ever realize. And she'd certainly realized what the Windsors were about and where they came from. Now, this is a guy who has been going around saying that Diana and his son Dodi were assassinated. I haven't got time to go into why someone might feel it acceptable for their son to die in a road crash, but if you read The Biggest Secret, you can see some of the background to this. If we start judging whether something is possible by what we would do, we're going to lose the plot, because not everyone thinks like everyone else. And when you look at the background to Diana's assassination, the person that had complete control of her security and her movements in the crucial period, days leading up to it, but particularly on that specific day, was Mohammed Al-Fayed. And when you look at his background, as I've said in The Biggest Secret, you know when Mohammed Al-Fayed is trying to kid you, trying to tell you something that's not true because his lips are moving. It's the way you can see it, because this guy has lied his way through his whole economic and business career. And he's done exactly that over Diana's assassination. There was a guy that I've mentioned a number of times in my books called Tony Blair. Tony Blair was brought through by this brotherhood to become Prime Minister